Hello, hello, fellow crafters. I am back. Today I have a quick video for you just showing how I made these 3 birthday cards and using some new to me products. I am trying to use the products that I got sent to Ireland. They are not part of they were not part of my stash before when I was recording from Brazil, and I'm very excited to use some new things. So these are the main products I'm going to use. Some of them are from Altenew. This one is a flower from with the keyhole system. Both of the first 2 dies are from Altenew and they have the keyhole system. And then I'm going to show you the difference from dies that don't have the system, how I usually do to assemble them. Know that it can be quite daunting to some people, but they are very, very easy, very straightforward, and the packaging usually helps you a lot. These are the 4 main items that I'm going to be using. I'm also using some sentiment dice. And here you can see the packaging usually shows you everything that you need to do. The keyhole system is also very easy because you do have that keyhole shape in the middle that you just need to line up. But then the other ones, you also have the pictures, and those pictures will help you a lot along the way. So let's get started. Today, I am trying a new microphone. So if you feel so inclined, please leave me a comment telling me what you think of the sound, if it's any better than before. I am trying. I am trying to improve the quality of my videos. I didn't bring my normal die cutting machine, but I have this mini Gemini one that is manual, and that's what I'm going to be using today. So far, I am kind of limited on what I can and cannot do with my cards because of that, because I didn't bring my die cutting machine. I also forgot my stamping platforms. Both of them, I left them all in Brazil. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me to do like layered stamping, for example. Let's see how I'm going to get around that. But die cutting, I can actually die cut smaller bits with this die cutting machine. And that's what I'm going to do. So I chose very light shades of pink, blue, green, and yellow. And I die cut some cardstock in those colors. And I'm just going to ink blend on them later to get like more dimension and a bit of contrast in my layers. As usual, I try to group everything together. So at first, I fussy cut around all of my cardstock. I chose the colors that I wanted to use. You don't need to use the same colors as me, of course. And then I went and did all of my die cutting at once, and then all my ink blending at once, and so on and so forth. I find that it's way easier to do everything, the same action for all the parts that I'm going to use. That saves me a lot of time in the end than doing one full card from beginning to end and then starting the second one. I hope that makes sense. It just like it's kind of like an assembly line style, and it saves a lot of time. This die I just thought it looked absolutely stunning. It's actually a peony, but I'm making it yellow. You can do your flowers any color, right? The other thing I'm doing is I'm making doubles. So I'm doing every die cut twice. That is because I don't know how much I'm gonna need. Some of the 2 Altenew flowers, they had no leaves, so I got the double of these leaves that you can see on your screen now, and I pair them up together. Also, I thought that if I have leftovers, I can always use them inside of the card or on my envelope, or I can save them for another card. I like to do extras when I have the time and I have the opportunity. The flowers, I am just adding a little bit more contrasting color in the centers and leaving the tips lighter. So the centers are darker, and I'm going to add more and more ink as I need to get the contrast going. And so the light blue ones, I used shades of teal and For the greens, I use darker greens. The ones that you can see on your screen, they are pink, so I use kind of a reddish, corally reddish color in the center and things like that. This one, it layers with the green, and the green looks like the stems, and then the pinks look like um, kind of buttons, right? Like, I don't know if you actually say buttons in English. When we have a flower that hasn't opened up yet, we call it a button in Portuguese. So that's where my mind is going. I don't know if it's the same thing in English. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. So there are two like that. There's that bigger one that I did first, and I'm doing the smaller one now. You could use it in pink as well, but the package shows it in green, so I just follow the package basically. Here you can see what I'm talking about. And then for the bigger buds, that's the word, but sorry for that. So for the bigger buds, I am actually going to use the packaging that comes with it. I thought this was brilliant. I never had a die from like this with leaves or flowers or something like that from Birch Press Designs, and it's absolutely genius. So I just sorted out all the pieces on top of the packaging just like they are, and you just glue them together, and it looks exactly like your packaging in the end. The same thing for this one for Memory Box, and I'll have all of these linked in the information box below in case you want to check it out. And I am just lining up the petals. You can see they will have different quantity of lines. Like the first one has 2 lines, the second has only one, the third one has 3 lines. So you can kind of figure out not only by the shape, that's why I'm putting one on top of the other, but also by the amount of lines that they have. And then I'm going to do these 3 first, and then I'm going to do the bottom 3, and then the other inner upper layers. I hope that makes sense. But I'm basically just using the image from the packaging to line it all up and assemble all the layers, all the parts, and then group them together. You're gonna see me doing something else here in a few minutes. Because this flower has so many different layers. So it has 6 petals on the bottom layer, and then 4 on inside that, and 4 more on top of that, and then 2 layers for the inner centerpiece. So you see me lining them all up. I'm doing this first part very slowly, but I'm going to speed it up later. I do apologize for speeding up my videos quite often. It's just that I want to save some time. You can always slow it down on YouTube and watch it in more detail if you need to, but you can see that it's the same thing. I'm just doing the same actions over and over. So usually I show the first one slower, and then I speed it up. And sometimes I speed it up a lot. I do apologize for that. But you can see that I'm doing exactly the same as I did for the first upper petals. And then I am going to use, here I have my press and seal. That's where I'm using to assemble the whole flower, because you can use hold all those petals together at the same time. But if you don't have press and seal at home, that's okay. You can use your masking paper. Any masking paper of any brand that you have, you can use that to hold all these layers together when you're happy with how they are positioned. And also any low tech adhesive, but I would advise it to be like a bigger size of adhesive, so you can hold all of these together. If it's your regular ECC tape, you probably wouldn't be able to hold all these layers and petals together at the same time, like I'm gonna do with the press and seal. That's the only thing. Maybe you could use like several strips, that would work, but I find that it's more work, but it is an option. So here I am just putting them back where they are meant to go. When you touch them, they move around. So I'm gonna fiddle and futz with this for a little bit. That's why I also speed it up, because I waste so much time with these details. Or I just wanting you to see how useful the packaging is. Quite often, your packaging will come with an image that it's either true to size or very close to the original size of your die cuts. So it is very, very easy for you to just place it on top of your packaging, line it up, and figure out which part goes where. Here I'm cutting my present seal, and I cut it into two pieces. I'm going to hold those 6 petals together. I'll turn it around and I'm going to add my glue just where they overlap. That way I know where the glue needs to go. I'm not going to have an excess oozing out and things like that. I'm going to use a different layer of present seal on the back, and I'm going to be very careful to press it only against those petals. Anywhere else that the present seal overlaps, it creates a very, very strong bond. So you don't want the present seal to stick itself to the other layer of present seal. It might be a bit messy, a bit hard to separate. And then I'm going to lift it and build up the rest of the flower. It's very easy for the other layers because the other 4 petals are stuck together. It's only that first layer that has 6 separate petals. As I said, it can be quite intimidating for people who are afraid of die cuts when you see these many parts, and you can be a bit intimidated and thinking, oh my goodness, how do I assemble this? Like, the memory box doesn't have in detail pictures of how to assemble, but you can actually do it just by looking at the picture. Now here comes the easiest one, that is the keyhole system. These are actually my first dies using keyhole system for layering flowers, and they are extremely straightforward, but you still have the pictures in the back to figure out how they are. The one thing that you usually can't see on camera, I hope you can see here, is that they have numbers. So this is the layer 1. I wish I had showed it to you before I ink blended. This is layer 2. You can clearly see number 2 there. And then the next is layer 3. You can also see the number in there. In person, of course, you can see it very well, but on camera, sometimes it doesn't show as clearly. But if you ever buy one of these dies from Altenew, they are very, very smartly designed. Altenew is actually one of my favorite brands. I love them. I absolutely adore their products. And it's a shame that I really can't order more from my favorite companies when I'm in Brazil, you know. That's why I got them shipped here before I came over. And if I have a chance, I might still place another order before I go back to Brazil. Let's see how that goes. Well, then I just keep on adding the layers according to the packaging. I'm again just following the instructions from the packaging, but you could figure this out on your own without the packaging as well, because you just need to line up the central shape. It is very user friendly, it is very straightforward. You can sometimes skip layers as well if you want to, but it's very, very easy to assemble. If you haven't tried layering dies for figure, they might be too much, they might be complicated. I suggest that you get one of these. These 2 dies that I'm using today from Altenew, for example, they have a very good price point as well. They are smaller die sets, and I find them very, very cute. I really like the designs. I know myself, and I know I will be using them a lot. All of these dies that I'm showing you today, and I tend to gravitate around flowers. Most of my stamp sets from Altenew are layering flowers, and most of my dies are layering flowers as well. And then I have the leaves to complete the images, to fluff them up and make them richer. And then sometimes I'm going to have as well some detail plates, the dotted detail plates and things like that, background designs. But here you can see how they assemble very easily. I did show you before the leaves. These ones I'm not going to use, so I'm just going to save it in the packaging for later. And then we're going to proceed to assembling. I am going to spare you from me playing around with these elements to try to organize them. I did that off screen. And then I'm going to just show you how I assembled. I have this paper. It's from actually a pattern paper pack, the very old one that I bought at the Euro store here in Ireland years ago. And I like the embossing pattern. It's just dots, but they are kind of medium size. I cut it to size, kind of, and just glued it to my card base. The card base is the same light pink that I used for the flower. And then I'm going to arrange those leaves because I want them to be in the back. And then I'm going to put my sentiment on top. So that's it. I am not adding anything special. That sentiment is gold for the letters, and I use the same light pink for the background. This is the second card, and I'm using a light blue for the card base. I am using this kind of more medium blue shade in the center. Two very thin gold strips above and below that center medium blue shade strip, and just to add some detail and separation between those two layers. And then I'm gonna add my sentiment, but I'm gluing it without gluing the letters that are on the top left and top right edge. I am adding adhesive only behind the other letters. And I'm centering the sentiment. That those letters there, I didn't add glue behind them. I'm gonna kind of add my flowers and leaves behind that. That's why I didn't add the glue. I can add that later once I'm happy with their position. And again, I played around off screen with these beforehand, so I kind of already know where I want them to go. And I'm just going to add some very tiny dots of glue here and there to hold this all together. But you can see that, like, you can probably use a different sentiment. This one I am actually using 2 flowers plus the leaves. This one has its own leaves. It's the other one that doesn't, the pink ones. And I am still using some of those leaves from the other set that I showed you before. It's by Birch Press Designs. And these are the smaller leaves from that set. It's very easy, very straightforward. It is kind of a matter of preference. And you can see that I am adding those letters kind of around the petals as well. It just looks a bit different. And the camera doesn't capture the gold very well. So these cards, all 3 of them, look way better in person. Now, that background that you can see, that foil background, I made it in Brazil in my previous video. I'm going to add the video. I'm going to link it in the information box. You can see that I just cut 2 strips from a full panel, so I can save the center part for another card another day. I'm adding a white strip in the center with 2 yellow strips beside it, again, just for definition. And then the flower, the sentiment, and the leaves behind the flower. To tuck those leaves behind the flower, I add glue only in the center of the flower, not the whole base, and that makes it easier for me. I also I always like to have those leaves kind of behind the flowers and the sentiment, so adding is sometimes less glue helps making that possible. And here you can see the final results. You can see the 3 cards. I hope you like these ideas. I'm going to have another video next week with an interactive design. I hope to see you there. Make something beautiful today, create something beautiful today, and have fun. Bye bye.